There are people who live their lives in chapters that never finish. They start things with excitement and disappear before the ending. They form connections that feel warm and real, then vanish without explanation. They dive into hobbies, passions, routines, only to burn them to the ground the moment they begin to feel familiar. They change their environment, their appearance, their habits, sometimes even their personality, as if restarting life gives them oxygen. These are the secret resetters, the ones who hit the emotional reset button when the world becomes too real, too close, too overwhelming. They do not reset because they want to start over. They reset because something inside them panics when their life gains weight. They feel trapped by continuity. They feel exposed by consistency. They feel unsafe when people begin to truly know them, and so they quietly escape into a new beginning. It usually starts with a feeling that is difficult to describe. A heaviness, a tightness in the chest, a sense that things are getting too close. A creeping fear that they are being seen too clearly. Maybe someone is getting emotionally attached. Maybe a routine is becoming predictable. Maybe a personal truth is being revealed. Maybe life is beginning to take shape in a way that requires commitment. The resetter feels the walls closing in, even when nothing is wrong. Especially when nothing is wrong. Emotional stability feels foreign to them. In fact, it feels suspicious. When things go well for too long, when life becomes predictable, when relationships deepen, the resetter's nervous system becomes alert. Their body whispers, something bad is coming. Something is about to break. Do not get comfortable. Get ready to run. This is not peace. This is the calm before disaster. They trust this voice because it once protected them. Most secret resetters grew up in environments where stability was fragile. Maybe they lived in a home where routines collapsed without warning, where good days turned into chaos suddenly, where love was unpredictable, where safety was temporary, where attachment felt dangerous. They learned that consistency cannot be trusted, that happiness is borrowed, that closeness leads to pain, that people who know you deeply can hurt you deeply. And so their nervous system adapted. It learned to anticipate collapse before it arrived. It learned to scan for subtle signals of danger. It learned to exit situations before they became too meaningful. It learned that detachment equals survival. It learned that restarting is safer than staying. When a child grows up in instability, they become adults who trust instability more than peace. Peace feels like a trap. Closeness feels like exposure. Predictability feels like confinement. They feel safer in motion than in stillness. They feel safer rewriting themselves than allowing someone to read them. This is why the reset happens suddenly. It is not a decision. It is a reflex. One day they wake up and feel suffocated by a routine they created. A relationship that was warm yesterday feels too intimate today. A hobby that made them feel alive now feels like a chain. A place that felt like home suddenly feels threatening. And instead of confronting the feeling, instead of asking why it is happening, they disappear into a new beginning. They stop responding. They cancel plans. They wipe the slate clean. They delete, detach, distance. They reset. From the outside, it looks like inconsistency. People assume they got bored or lost interest or never cared. Friends feel abandoned. Partners feel rejected. Everyone is left confused, but none of this is intentional. None of it is personal. The resetter does not leave because they do not care. They leave because they care too much and do not know how to hold the weight of that care without drowning in it. Inside the resetter's mind, the panic is real. They think, I am losing myself. I am trapped. I am being seen. I am not ready for this. I need to breathe. Primera needs space. I need to disappear before something goes wrong. Their instinct tells them escape is safety. Reinvention is control. Starting over is oxygen. They feel relief the moment they cut ties, the moment they step away, the moment they release the pressure of being known. But that relief never lasts, because after every reset, loneliness finds them again. It creeps in slowly. It stings quietly. At first they enjoy the freedom, the fresh air, the blank slate, but then they notice the empty spaces, the absence of the people they pushed away, the silence where connection used to be, the loss of hobbies that once gave them joy, the lack of roots, the lack of home, the lack of continuity. Over time, they begin to feel like a ghost in their own life. They carry fragments of past selves, versions of themselves they abandoned during each reset. They walk through life like someone always on the run, never staying long enough to build something lasting, never trusting themselves enough to remain, never believing they deserve the stability they keep escaping from. What the resetter will not admit is that the resets hurt them too. Every time they start over, they grieve silently. They grieve the friendships that could have grown, the hobbies that could have evolved, the routines that could have grounded them, the relationships that could have become real. They grieve the version of themselves they almost became before fear made them disappear. This grief grows heavy, and eventually, something inside them breaks. One day they wake up in yet another fresh start, only to realize it feels empty. The excitement of reinvention fades faster than it used to. The relief doesn't arrive. The reset does not solve the suffocation. It does not dissolve the fear. It does not create freedom. Instead, it creates numbness. This is the breaking point. It is the moment the resetter realizes they have been running in circles. They have escaped danger that was never there. They have protected themselves from closeness that was not threatening. They have avoided intimacy that could have healed them. They have erased themselves so many times they no longer know who they are without the reset. This realization is painful, but it opens the door to transformation. Healing begins not with forcing themselves to stay, but with understanding why leaving feels safer. It begins with acknowledging the fear beneath the surface. The fear of being known. The fear of being hurt. The fear of being trapped. The fear of disappointing others. The fear of showing the parts of themselves that they once had to hide. The resetter must learn that stability does not equal danger. That closeness is not a trap. That consistency is not confinement. That being known is not exposure. That people can hold their truth without breaking it. That a routine does not erase freedom. That they can remain without losing themselves. Healing happens when they allow themselves to feel discomfort without escaping it. When they stay in a moment that triggers the urge to run. When they resist the instinct to disappear. When they breathe through the emotional claustrophobia instead of resetting their entire life. When they choose continuity one small moment at a time. The more they do this, the more something shifts. They begin building identity instead of abandoning it. They begin trusting relationships instead of resetting them. They begin allowing people to see them, not the version they craft after each restart. They begin allowing life to deepen, layer by layer, instead of erasing it each time it becomes meaningful. And they discover something profound. The life they always wanted is not found in constant beginnings. It is found in what happens when you allow a beginning to continue. Here is the truth the secret resetter needs to hear. You do not reset because you do not care. You reset because you were taught that safety comes from distance. You reset because life became heavy before you knew how to hold it. You reset because you learned to escape instead of stay. But you are allowed to build a life that does not require disappearing. You are allowed to trust the people who stay. You are allowed to let yourself grow roots. You do not have to start over again. You can stay, and you can be safe. Even when life becomes real. Especially then